This episode is going to be the week's episode.
This build is brought to you by Thermaltake, Galax, Asgard, and Cable Mod.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jesse here of JP Modified. I'd like you guys to meet my other half. Her name's Gebby or Genevieve.
Hi.
So it's her project that we are going to show you guys right now. So she did the build herself. I'd like you guys to take a look at it. Enjoy the video.
So the case I will be using is the Core P1 Mini ITX Open Frame Chassis by Thermaltake. This is a side-by-side comparison between the Core P3, which was my previous case, and the Core P1, which I will be building right now. So first I will be painting the metal frame thingies that comes with the case. The first thing I'm gonna do is to buff them using a sandpaper. I think this is a 600 grit. We do this to make sure that all the shiny surfaces are evened out to make the paint stick on better. So this is the comparison between the buffed one and the unbuffed one. So once I finished with all four, this is what it looks like. I also did the same with the screws, and I'm going to paint them now with a primer. Here I am using a primer gray. So when I paint, I like to make sure that I do it in thin coats and let it dry between each coat. So while waiting for that to dry, I decided to remove the other parts of the case that I wish to paint, such as these feet or stands. So first I'm going to work on the body, spray it well with water, and then sandpaper it. Make sure you get all the areas evenly, not forgetting to wet in between. And once that's done and dried, I then moved on to painting it with primer. So I'm going to do this with every metal part that I'm going to paint on. Sandpaper, and then primer, and then the actual color itself. Make sure to paint it in thin coats, thin layers, let it dry, and then add another coat. Again, this is to make sure that the paint sticks on better. It minimizes the scratches that we can get on it somehow. So this is what the final coat of primer looks like. And while waiting for that to dry, I moved on to the feet. Paint it directly with the rose gold. I didn't sandpaper this because it's made out of plastic. And also with the body of the case, I let it dry overnight, and then the next day I painted it with white. So here's what the feet or the stands look like when it's done. I had difficulty looking for this kind of paint, but I'm glad I found it. I'm pretty happy with how the rose gold showed up. So here's a close-up of it. As you can see, the screws aren't really painted that well, so I'm going to paint them again, as well as the power and the reset buttons. So here I'm just MacGyvering a DIY stand for the screws and the buttons for painting, and as you're about to see, oops, that was a major fail. So let's try that again, using this PC part that I saw just lying around the house. And it worked out pretty well. So here's what it looks like so far. I'm going to assemble it now. So the theme I'm going for is white and rose gold. It's not copper, it's not bronze, it's rose gold. For me, at least. Alright, so as I was examining the case, I noticed that there were these small screws all around the case, which I have no idea what they're for. So I decided to take them out and paint them with a different color. So thankfully when I removed them, the case didn't fall apart. It wasn't attached to anything, I think, and I just painted them rose gold. So I also painted these thumb screws by Cable Mod Rose Gold as well, to go with the whole theme of the case. So once they're all dry, I just placed them back on. I didn't really perfect the painting on this one because they're just tiny. And the main point of this is I didn't want to have one block of color. I wanted there to be a breaker somehow. And see, it looks much better now. So now I'm gonna move on to the fans. I will be using the Ring Plus 12 RGB fans by Thermaltake. So these are software controlled. So right now I'm about to try to open them up so I can prep them for painting. So what I'm gonna do first is to remove these rubber things and then mask off those areas that I don't want any paint to get into, such as these LEDs, the wires. Since this is plastic again, I directly painted it with the color I want. I skipped the primer. And make sure to do it in thin coats as well. So let's move on to water cooling. All of the water cooling materials I'm gonna use is by Thermaltake. The radiator, reservoir, CPU block, RGB fittings. So I'm going to paint all of them because I want to avoid getting as much black on the case as possible. Let's start with the radiator. So it's the same process. Since this is metal, I sandpaper it first. And then I masked out all the areas that I don't want paint to get into, such as the fins. And then proceeded with painting it directly. I didn't use a primer on this one, by the way. So this is what they look like once they're done. Again, I am pretty happy with the results. So these are the rubber thingies that comes with the fans. I tried painting them separately even if I was told that it's not gonna stick because it's rubber. I still did it, and yeah, it didn't stick. I also painted those other parts on the PC that can be seen, such as these power supply mounts, as well as this thing and that thing. And I'm finally attaching the frames. So now let's move on to the RGB fittings, which I'm planning to paint. So I'm kind of having a hard time dealing with this because of the O-rings. I couldn't get it out. So I had to go to the master for help. Thank you so much. Alright, so now that we've removed all the LEDs and masked the areas that we don't want any paint on, let's set that aside and do the same thing for the reservoir. So here's what they look like. I didn't record the painting process because it's basically the same. Since I couldn't paint on the pump directly, I just removed the sticker and replaced it with a new vinyl sticker, which I painted rose gold. And being me, I also painted all the other screws with rose gold. So Jesse advised me against painting those parts like the fittings and the screws. We would have a bigger chance of chipping off the paint while working with them. But I did it anyways, because the less black on my case, the better. So time to assemble the fittings. These are the RGB fittings by Thermaltake. Again, links will be in the description below. So this is the CPU block by Thermaltake, and I will be using the MSI B250i Pro Mini ITX motherboard. And the Tough Power 850 watts gold RGB power supply by Thermaltake. So for the RAMs, I will be using Loki DDR4 by Asgard, and these are RGB as well. So what I really like about these RAMs is that they're simple, they're clean, they look classy, and the RGB effect on them is also very subtle. The colors are very pastel-y. We will also be doing a review on these Loki RAMs soon on a separate video. And the GPU I will be using is the 1070 EXOC Sniper by Galax. This has a customizable RGB backplate, however you couldn't change the default red lights on the fans. What we have is the black version, so I decided to paint it white. I will be using the sleeved cables by Cable Mods. So you should check them out. It's very easy to order sleeved cables using their website. You can customize them however you like it. I will be putting their link down below. So time to start with the water cooling. For the CPU block, I will be using just regular fittings by Thermaltake, and we had a hard time trying to figure out where to put the reservoir, but fortunately I have the master here once again, JP Modified, and he helped me find a way to mount the reservoir in place because I didn't want to use the riser for the GPU. So for the first loop, I just recycled the one that we're not using and then cutting it to fit. So I had asked help from Jessie again at this part because I had no strength. And let's move on to the other loops. So I had experience with bending tubes before on my previous PC, but yeah, I also got a lot of advice from Jessie. So I will be using the C1000 white opaque coolant by Thermaltake. I only added a tiny portion of the white. So basically this is more distilled water than coolant because I wanted it to look milky or cloudy white. And we're done with this first leak test. The next day, I decided to change these two regular fittings to RGB ones. So let's fill it up again, pretend that didn't happen, and finally we are done with the loop. So I decided to paint the back plate white as well. So time to move on to acrylic. These IO and PSC covers are previously from my old PC, so I just put them on to check how it looks like. And with the cutting of the acrylic, I had to ask help with the guys because I have no strength and I don't want to waste any acrylic in case I break them. Thanks for that. And once that's done, I just made a little cut on both acrylics to mark out where I'm going to make my bend. So using the bender definitely makes things a lot easier. So for the power supply, I kind of wanted there to be a backlight or a background glow. So I asked help from Jessie and he made me another piece which is bigger. We buffed it and then sandpapered it to make sure that the light would be evenly distributed. And then once that's done, we attached an LED strip to the back of it. Moving on, these are the designs that I've chosen. And now my favorite part, which is the peeling. I also painted the RGB controller. So if you made any mistakes, then don't worry, you can easily fix that up, just like what I'm doing here, by using a toothpick and a small bit of paint to go over those scratches. I will be using a sleeved power cord by Cable Mod. This is 2 meters long, and you could also order them using the website below. And we're finally done. So this is what the finished build looks like. And for the RGB, I have decided to go with white. So coming from someone who's not really a modder or someone who's not good in modding, I wanted to give a little bit of voiceover to explain the parts of what I did to mod this build. So I hope that this has somehow been helpful, and thank you so much for watching. Alright, so I'm gonna stop talking now, and here is the finished build.
When the waves come crashing in, but you can't feel the water. When the light shines again and again, but you can't feel the heat on your face. I know the words can hurt, but you can't let it get inside. And I know what they're saying's not true. Just believe me when I say you're worth it to me. You shine right through and make life feel like a dream. Yeah, you're worth it to me. Oh, you shine right through and make life feel like a dream.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. We share a lot of common interests. We started to game with laptops before. We used to play, what was that? Command and Conquer, Kane's Wrath, and then some other online games that we used to play, and then we evolved into computers and so on. So we also share a sickness. We are both
Sick.
we're both sick. This was all her. Apart from there were a couple of times where she needed my help, especially to cut acrylic, because you would need some brute strength. Apart from that, everything else was done by her. So how was building in a Core P1 for you?
It was fun. It took a really long time because whenever I need to work on this, I had to try to squeeze it in between those times that Jesse's not working on any project. I did have previous experience. I mean, this is the third PC that I built, but it's still not easy. I need supervision, and I'm lucky that I have the master here with me. So most of the parts here are RGB. The block, the fittings, the fans, it all depends on your mood. So right now, I chose white, or something like a little bit yellowish white, not the blue white, because it fits with my mood. So if ever, like tomorrow or someday, I like to change it to pink, to purple, to green, then I have the option to do that because it's RGB.
A lot of people hate RGB because it has many colors. A lot of people don't understand that RGB is a feature you can use. Now you can swap colors. Like her, today I could probably want a red build, Next week, you could probably want the blue one. RGB takes care of it. So to be honest, I can't imagine anything that's lit not be RGB. Alright, so it's an advantage actually. A lot of people are hating on RGB for the wrong reasons. But again, your opinion is your own.
So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the build. Shout out to Andy from Thermaltake. Thank you so much.
Shout out also to Thomas and Matt of Cable Mod for supplying the cables.
Shoutouts also to Galax for providing the 1070 Sniper XOC GPU.
Yeah,
XOC or XOC.
EXOC. And also shout out to Vil Huang of Asgard for supplying the memory modules. You guys rock. So we've both ran out of things to say. This is the first time you guys seen us both on camera. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. We appreciate your following and your constant support. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave a dislike if you don't. Thank you very much. So see you guys next week. Mod on!